Today I'm going to share with you some ideas for upcycling your clothes, and I'd say all of these are beginner friendly. By beginner friendly, I mean you don't have to have a ton of sewing or drawing knowledge to do these projects. But I would say the sewing projects I'm including in this list do require knowledge of basic hand sewing, like threading a needle, tying off a knot, and stitching. All of the projects on this list are things that I want to do this spring to my own wardrobe. So let's get into this list. Also, I am in the process of giving my workroom a bit of a makeover. We just painted the walls this kind of creamy yellow. It's probably going to take longer than I think to get myself back in order and organized. I'm probably going to do a lot of list style videos. My first idea is actually what inspired this video, and that is changing out your buttons on a garment. I am going through a bit of a button phase. I'm actually in the process of decorating some gym shorts or basketball shorts with a bunch of buttons inspired by the pearly kings and queens of London. I saw an image of this jacket with mismatched buttons, and I immediately was struck with the urge to try and do something like that on one of my jackets or one of my shirts. I have a huge collection of vintage buttons. People tend to give me a lot of old craft supplies that they're getting rid of, and I've also shopped a lot of vintage buttons on Etsy and eBay. eBay tends to be where I buy most of my vintage buttons. I love how cheeky and unique this look is, and there's so many different ways that you can try this idea. It doesn't have to be mismatched. You can just swap out plastic buttons on a shirt with metal buttons or choose a contrasting color. I think it's a really fun way to breathe new life into a piece. My next idea is iron-on studs or studs. I think studs are cool, which is kind of surprising to me. When I was in college, studs were extremely trendy. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology and I studied fashion design. Back when I was in school, when we would make all of our garments, it was such a thing for people to go to the garment district and get the garments they were working on studded. Actual grommets, not iron-ons. I put iron-on as this idea because I recently got a bunch of iron-on studs, and I think both are great ideas, but iron-on studs seem like they keep clothing more comfortable because you don't have the metal touching your skin. For a long time after college, I definitely shuddered at the sight of aggressively studded clothes. What led me to this idea was that I was thinking of making a YouTube video trying to recreate the iconic Venus t-shirt that Vivienne Westwood made back in, I think, the 70s. So I bought the iron-on studs. I've changed my mind, like I don't want to do that video, and now I have all of these studs, so I have to think of something to do with them. I think it'd be really pretty to very simply line the neckline of a t-shirt with studs, or the hem of a shirt with studs, the hem of pants with studs. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but if you do want to have fun with it, you could even draw out little pictures with studs. You could spell out words like the Venus t-shirt, but I do think there's a special heat tool that you could use for more precision with these studs, because when I started thinking about actually using my iron to fix the studs onto the shirt, I can imagine that that could get a little bit difficult with keeping them in the right place. So I am going to look into getting the proper tool for application of the iron-on studs. So my third idea is patches, but specifically making patches out of old graphic t-shirts, which I have a lot of. I have a ton of old sentimental graphic t-shirts that I don't want to get rid of because I love the design, but I don't really wear the shirts anymore because they're either too small on me, too worn out, they might have stretched a bit, or like got misshapen from overwearing them. So I was thinking of cutting out the graphics and then just sewing them onto another shirt basically as a patch. I'm really inspired by the brand Chapova Lowena. I think that's how you say it. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I feel like they're very punk. They do a lot of upcycling, so it's right up my alley. Most of their clothes are also highly decorated. I'm not sure if these designs are patches, but I feel like they could be sewn on patches. They could be graphic designs, but you could try to replicate this style of shirt, but using a graphic patch from an old t-shirt and then decorating it all around with beads or iron-on studs or something like that. My fourth idea is blanket stitching or whip stitching around the edge of a garment. This one has been pretty trendy for a while, both in the realm of upcycling with embroidery, but also just in fashion generally. I love picking a contrast color to stitch around a shirt because it just adds a little extra special detail and makes it just a little bit more interesting than a plain shirt. You can do this to plain t-shirts or sweaters. You could even do like chunky knits and use yarn to do the whip stitching. I think one of these examples is a leather ribbon that's stitched around the edge of something. I think this is pretty easy if you have general sewing skills. The blanket stitch is a little bit more tricky than just a normal whip stitch. My next idea is a monochrome dye bath. So I have a bathing suit. I love it. It's from the brand New Swim. It was kind of like an investment piece because I wanted a bathing suit that was made well, fits really well, and that I could just have that bathing suit for a really long time. I'm not a huge swimmer, so I don't really need a bunch of bathing suits. It's the only one I really wear. The only thing is that it's lime green. But anyways, I want to keep wearing it this summer and more summers to come, but I think I would feel more comfortable if I changed the color of it because of the whole like brat summer thing. I think I'm just like exhausted by lime green. So I've been making a plan to dye it. It's polyester. So I would ideally want to, if I dye stuff, try to do natural dyeing, but because it's a bathing suit, I would have to get special dye for polyester. And my thinking was to be less wasteful, I could make a dye bath and maybe put some other garments of mine also in it to give them new life. Like I have a pair of yoga pants that I love and I wear most mornings. They're like a soft kind of sage green, but they do have tons of stains on them just because I wear them all the time and I'm a messy person. Maybe if I chose a navy blue or dark brown or forest green, I could throw some other stuff in there. My bathing suit, some socks, yoga pants, maybe some shirts that have stains on them, like a t-shirt, and give it a different look, a different color. Then I can create a monochrome outfit for myself, which I think is really cute. My next idea is textile paint, and this one maybe requires a bit more confidence in drawing or painting. You don't have to do anything too extreme to still play around with textile paint. Even if you don't really draw, you could make lines on a garment like stripes or patterns like a checkerboard pattern, polka dots, really simple flowers. I think some of these designs are the most effective and you don't need to be an expert drawer to do this sort of stuff. I feel like you could also use bleach pens instead of textile paint. In the same realm of this idea, I like to draw on my clothes with micron pens, which I've done quite a bit. I kind of want to combine drawing with micron pens and then filling it in with textile paint, but you can also do it simply. You could write all over something, doodle. I think it's just really fun and different and custom. I like custom touches in clothing. I like when you can tell that something's handmade. My last idea is using ribbons and trim to embellish a garment. There's lots of really cute vintage ribbons out there on Etsy, on eBay, that could add a special touch to a shirt. It doesn't have to be any kind of crazy pattern. You can literally just put some stripes with ribbon on a garment. You could create a border around a garment with ribbon. You could use lacy ribbons. I'm quite inspired by the gunny Saks dresses from the 70s. If you have a little bit more sewing skills, you could even make ruffles just by gathering ribbons or fabric strips, stitching ruffles onto garments. That's something I want to do more. I've been really inspired by ruffle trimming on things. There's this one jacket I saw that had a contrast ruffle around the edging, and I thought that looked really cool. Just to add a bit of extra fun to a garment. Those are my ideas. I hope you feel a bit more inspired to do something fun to your clothes and give them new life. Also, if you're watching this when it comes out, I am having a sale in my Etsy shop. Other than that, I hope you're doing well. Let me know what you think, if there's any of these that you want to try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.